Welcome back to the last part of this kit modification special. So for the final installment of my project, I had to make a big ass base. These are 1/5 scale figures, so they are pretty big as you can see. So I needed to make an appropriate space for them to create a scene. Now what I've done are just some rough markings on what will go where, as well as movements that these figures will simulate. Let me show you first what I will attempt to create in this diorama. A lot of people saw the finished project and were left with a big question mark on their faces because no matter how much I explained what the scene was about, they still didn't get it. So this is actually the area I will try to emulate from the game itself. This map is called Undead Ground, and it's full of vampires, ghouls, zombies, and all undead things you might think of. But the area I most liked about this map was this one right here. Mostly due because the original figure I modified was pouncing off a tombstone, and this area has a cemetery, so it couldn't have been a better fit. I purchased these little pine trees you get for school projects and just started to cut out the branches to make my own little bushes from the scene. These were simple to make. I just had to glue them up to the trunk with some hot silicone, and then just remove the excess glue strings left over from the gun with some tweezers. And there it is, a nice little bush. Alright, my next elements will be some pumpkins in assorted sizes. This is the part where everybody was like, what? Pumpkins? But is it a winter-themed diorama? And this is the part I always had to explain. Yeah, I know, but it's not only a winter-themed diorama, but also a representation of a map that I already explained about. Yet people will say, duh, well I think it shouldn't be there anyway. It kinda annoyed me because people didn't want to see my version of a battle that took place where there is snow and pumpkins together. So I'm going to take these pumpkins and give them a better paint job. Next is the tedious part of cutting all these little popsicle sticks to make my own rundown crooked fence. This will be part of the borders for the base because you see, these were everywhere in the area of that map. All I need to do next is just glue them together with some hot silicone, and there we go. They stay together pretty good, and I can easily place them next to one another. And as you can see, it covers 3/4 of the base outline. And my next step is to make myself a good old-fashioned creepy tree to go along with the scene. What I'm going to be using to make my tree is this really simple instant paper mache. So I just take a good amount and add some water to it to get a thick consistency to be able to mold it. I don't usually wear gloves to mix, but since I needed to manage my camera, I needed to be able to have my hands clean if I needed to touch it. So you can mix it with your bare hands because it's non-toxic. The only thing that will happen is that your hands will feel funny because the paper mache will dry after a bit and stick to your fingers. But you can easily wash them with water and soap and that's it. So anyways, I'll just take my mix and cover a little wooden stick I will use as a skeleton. Once it's ready, I'll just start adding layers of more paper mache to make the roots and the rest of the tree. And since this is a tree, paper mache will have like a grungy texture, excellent to emulate the bark of the tree. 24 hours later, it's completely dry and hard.
That's what she said!
I can start working on the branches, which I will make out of these little dry branches I bought at Michael's, in the area where you can buy the drier, still live flowers. So I'll just take my Dremel and drill some holes where I want my branches to be. Once I get all my branches established in place, I'll start filling in with more paper mache. Once it's dry again, I'll start painting it with my airbrush to cover it all with a terracotta color. The next step is to do several layers of washes, so I can get that bark texture I want with the color. I had to do like 10 layers because since it's paper mache, water will make it moist again. So to minimize moisture, be sure to add a thick coat of sealer before you do the wash. This next part I won't be able to explain how to do it because the person who made these LED wirings was my boyfriend. So I'm sorry to not be able to tell you how to make a good connection with LED lights, but I'll promise I'll learn so I can show you in the future. So for now, I'm just going to position them where the blader will be around the tomb to emulate the glow of her attack. As you can see, all the elements needed for the base are already marked down, so now it's time for the fun stuff. Snow time! For my diorama, I used Woodland Scenics soft flake snow, flex paste, water effects, spray glue, some grass, and some dry weeds. Now, the flex paste is used as a base for your snow. It will cover everything with almost a single layer, so just to be okay, I used 3. Then I started to create some landscaping effects in the areas where the action is. But before you can start doing this, remember that you need to leave it to dry for at least 24 hours. This paste will not shrink or break, so adding large amounts will not affect it. After it completely dries, I added some glue so I can add my grass where the pumpkins will be in this little area. I started to add some more paste in the areas where feet and slides were going to be, because when you walk on snow, it doesn't stay firm, your feet actually sink. So I'm going to make that sinking effect where the force shielder will be, as well as marking the movement from her leg when it's sliding to the back. Okay, now that everything's been covered, I can now add my snowflakes over the dry paste. Just remember to use your spray glue again. All I did was sprinkle it all over and cover every inch until the base is no longer visible. I did this in several layers, adding more glue in between them. And there we go, all set up to just add the final details with my snowflakes. I'll decorate my dead tree with some more flex paste on the branches, because trees are not exempt from having snow on them. With this flex paste on the tree, you don't need to add snowflakes because it does the job by itself.
What do you think of me? Do you know? You're my specials. I can't stop loving you.
I painted my fence, and now it's just a matter of gluing them on with some hot silicone. It doesn't really matter if you can see it, because more snow will cover all those connections. And since a lot of white owls are seen in this map, I needed to add them to mine as well. Remember about the snow? Okay, so more flex paste to the fence to add more detail. Since this part of the fence has fallen down. It will need some snow on the top so it will look like it's been that way for a very long time. For some reason I wasn't able to find any footage on how I made my icicles for the fence and the tree branches. What I can say is that I use Woodland Scenics water effects to create them. I totally recommend you guys watch Woodland Scenics video tutorial on how to use these products. These guys apply them more for miniatures, but as you can see, they can also be used for large scale projects. I'll leave the link below, so be sure to visit. It's really cool and it can give you a whole lot of ideas on how you can use these products on your own projects. I hope you liked this mini special on kit modification, although the only mods you saw were on part 1. Either way, this was a project I worked on full time from January this year to April, and I had this idea for the longest time and I just had to make it. I was rushed to finish it because it was going to participate in E2046's yearly GK contest. But even after all the time it went into it and all the dedication I gave it, it still didn't win any place. Maybe next time we'll make something more recognizable, as it seems that people just got confused mostly because it was from a game that I'm sure nobody had ever heard before. You can see the pictures of the completed project on my gallery section on my website. I would have filmed it like usual, but it's really hard to move a base that big, and well, with that I can tell you everything. The link is in the description area below. Until next time, my resin monkeys!